well. Martin owns a chain of Mojo bars across the north of England. Hello, Martin.
Good evening, Stephen.
Even tighter strict restrictions coming in for you this weekend. How do you feel about that, Martin?
To be honest, the entire situation is pretty catastrophic, to be honest. I mean, if I can just give you a little bit of insight, really, because there's been a lot of talk about the curfew being the loss of an hour, but for our part of the sector, it's significantly more than that. We're talking about losing up to 7 hours of trading time, because some of our units go right through into the small hours of the morning. And I can give you some real world numbers. So for Thursday night, we were down by 80% week on week. For tonight, we're down 70%. And that's on COVID numbers. If we compare it to pre-COVID numbers, we're down 90%. As an industry,
so how are you down 70% on COVID numbers? I don't get that.
Well, we had quite a strong return. So as some of your previous callers were saying, we had all the required measures in place. We pivoted to a table service mechanic, and we've done very well. We've managed to spread out our trading through more of the day, but even that relies on our late evening trade, and so that's where we've lost.
Martin, do late nights not mean drunk people? Like who stays up in the middle of the night to sit and have a yarn? Surely people stay up in the middle of the night in a nightclub to do a number of things. In a pub. Sorry,
I don't anymore, and I'm guessing you probably don't. But I'm not 25 anymore, and what I can say with absolute certainty is that we were having a good number. Bear in mind, we're talking about business units that were reduced to 40% of their previous capacity. These were people who were seated, and as one of your previous callers had said, if they weren't seated, they're out of the building. That's just how it worked. And people were happy with that. And we were taking those numbers, and, we've had inspections in all 5 of our sites by local authorities. We're even cited on the Department of Industry's website as a case study. So it is manageable. I'm not saying...
And Martin, the behaviour might be exemplary in your establishments, I don't know. But come on, work with me here. If people are sitting in a pub late at night and they're young people, then what are young people doing sitting in a pub at 1 or 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning? They are not sitting with their arms folded, and they're not sitting doing a crossword. They're touching each other, they're embracing each other, they're kissing each other, they're getting drunk. And we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Well,
am I wrong?
I believe you are wrong. Although please bear in mind, these are people who are socialising together anyway. So if it's a boyfriend and a girlfriend coming in, I'm pretty sure that the holding hands and the kissing doesn't just happen when they're drunk. So I think it's quite presumptuous to suggest that we're some sort of hotbed. I mean, if you look at the statistics released by Public Health England, we're responsible for 4.6% of cases. There's no statistical evidence that suggests that we're actually driving this. 43% in care homes, 26% in education, 15% in other workplaces. So 4.6% means that we devastate an entire industry. And if you want to look to where that takes us, we've had Mr. Sunak's job support scheme, which is absolutely unfit for purpose for the hospitality industry. We're the only industry that I can think of, and I've tried to have a look around and find another example of this, where we have, by government mandate, been forced to close. Now, that's been done under threat of military force. Now, when you factor in the mechanic of how the job, what's it called now, the job support scheme works, that actually means for our business, the 5 hours of trading that we've got left actually means we're paying those members of staff a time and a half to do those hours. It's just not sustainable. And where that ultimately leads you is that you're going to have, an attempt here to retain people in employment that will ultimately only end up with their employer no longer existing because they'll have gone bust. And getting half a solution is like getting halfway to the moon. You spend an awful lot of money to end up absolutely nowhere.
I guess we're getting off pubs here, but I'm happy to. You know, you're getting into the Chancellor's strategy now, Richie Sunak's strategy. And I guess his strategy, Martin, there's at least a logic to it. Whether you agree with it or not is another thing. And Richie Sunak's logic is there is no point the government piling money into jobs which in the long term are unsustainable. That's why he's arguing furlough needs to end. And now it's transferring into a scheme where the first, if an employee is doing, what is it, 33, a third, 33% of their hours, that the rest of their pay will be split between the government and the employer. Now, I get it. How on earth does an employer take that extra burden?
Stephen, don't get me wrong. I completely agree with the strategy where you have a business that isn't being mandated to be closed. That changes the game entirely. Yeah. If you're a car dealership or you're a bakery or something that can open, yes, fine. And I do think there have been abuses of the furlough scheme. I completely agree with its ending, unless you're in an industry that is being forced to stay closed or take, shall we say, the greatest part of its trading opportunity away from it.
You know, Martin, I feel for you. Again, I do want to say this out loud. Really easy for me to sit here, as a BBC presenter where I'm getting a paycheck every month, no matter what. And I understand how psychologically tough it must be. The pressure that must be on someone like you must be phenomenal.
It is. We have 84 members of staff. And whenever we make a business decision, we make it with their best interests at heart. Now, sometimes those are unpleasant choices and sometimes they're not. But, we always look to them. And this is what we're looking at. This is why I say, we're trying to keep people in work. We're trying to keep a roof over our head. The solution isn't right. Now, in all honesty, I think Rishi Sunak's done a phenomenal job. Would I be surprised if we see him as a Prime Minister in the future? No. I think he's done, because he's been in the job about 4 weeks, I think, when this all hit. I think he's done incredibly. But I think he needs to look again at the solution that he's put forward for our sector. We are a special case, like it or lump it, we are. Unless if we're going to declare prohibition, let's get on and do it, and we all know that we need to change jobs. But otherwise, we need a better solution. We need help.
Martin, thank you very much indeed. Martin Greenhow, an impassioned plea tonight for help from the government, and thanks to Nick Freeman and Tracy Lawson as well. 08085 909 693.